Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Ord. Great show for you today. We are going to get deeper into the Super Bowl and who is going to win that contest between the Chiefs and the 49ers. We are going to talk about Michael Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, and their draft status. But we're going to talk about some things that were said on Foul Territory, a show that I have suggested a lot on here. And some comments from Jeff Francoeur about Orlando Arcia, the Braves postseason run, and that sort of thing, because it's some things that we have hinted to all offseason that need to be fixed if the Braves want to come back in 2024 and win the World Series, which is the ultimate goal. This is a World Series or bust team.
Yeah, and I think that most of the offseason was addressed. Alex Anthopoulos, obviously one of the best GMs in sports, knows that this team, as currently constructed, before the Kelenic acquisition, before the Chris Sale acquisition, this team wins 90-plus games and runs away with the NL East. What could he do differently that's going to translate in October? And it's exactly what Francoeur addressed. It's basically the attitude of the team. What is the difference between that 2021 World Series team and the past two teams that have been knocked out by the Phillies? It's that attitude. It's that grit. It's that stuff that Jock Peterson had. And specifically, Francoeur mentioned Freddie Freeman in that kind of leadership aspect of the team.
Yeah, I mean, don't even get me started on Freddie Freeman, because as I've said, that's the worst decision in franchise history. Now, of course, Matt Olson made me eat my words a little bit, but I do think there is an aspect of the team that a lot of people don't talk about, and it is that leadership role. And if you listen to AJ Minter on Foul Territory, same show, you should totally go check it out. He said the Braves are missing a little bit of that FU attitude. Same thing Austin Riley said, same thing Spencer Strider hinted at. So you can lose a series in October to the Philadelphia Phillies, who are 10-plus games worse than you one time, and you can say, hey, it was an anomaly. You do it twice in exactly the same fashion. You can no longer say that that's just a random act, even in the game of baseball, when randomness kind of, rules the entire game. So there's something that the Braves need to fix in 2024. I think they have addressed that internally, and I think that's why you're hearing players say it. Like, we need more leadership. Jeff Francoeur mentioned Austin Riley specifically as a guy who can take over that Freddie Freeman-esque role. But I think that's a natural thing. And maybe Riley grows into that. But I think more than anything, it needs to be a team effort. I look at a guy like Spencer Strider. He has a fiery personality. He has never shied away from the Braves' opening goal of winning a World Series. That is the goal. Anything else is utter disappointment, just like we fans think. I think it has to be a collective group effort. We talked about Chris Sale. Obviously, he can bring some of that stuff, but he's a new face in the locker room. It takes a lot. It takes a brash personality, like we saw with Jock Peterson, to come in and immediately grab guys' attention and have you gravitate you. Maybe that is maybe that's who Chris Sale is. It is who he has been in his career, but I think it's going to be a team effort rather than just one person really just owning the kind of talent on this team and what the expectation is.
Yeah, they have to exude confidence, and I think that, what's really important to kind of understand about this whole thing is, though, yes, several guys are going to have to step up. There's no doubt about that. You lose in the same way two postseasons in a row. Something has to change. But the fact is people can grow into these roles. The core of this team is so young that maybe they don't even know themselves, let alone, what they can be. And you said Spencer Strider. That's a guy to me that sticks out. Spencer Strider is that kind of guy. He's that no BS guy. He's been with the team one full season, and he is already saying the standard is a World Series. He wasn't a part of that 2021 World Series team. So the fact is he already understands that, as Chase said, Francoeur pointed out Austin Riley. But I think, it's not crazy to say that somebody like Ozzie Albies or somebody that you're not really expecting grows into the role, growing into a leadership role, learning how to be a leader. You're not born a leader. You have to go through trials and tribulations, and maybe you have some of those attributes that a lot of leaders do, but to become a great leader, you have to learn from great leaders. And those guys that were surrounded by Freddie Freeman and such, obviously took a thing or two away, including Dansby Swanson as well. So, but Francoeur's second point that I think is much more important is the confidence. He pointed to the Orlando Arcia Bryce Harper feud, that, the attaboy Harper, and Harper went on to, we know who Bryce Harper is and what he's capable of. And he took that little ounce of, and it wasn't disrespect. I guarantee you Bryce Harper doesn't think that, but he used that as motivation. That's what great players do. Tom Brady, does it better than anybody. And he, used that as motivation. Whereas, like, on the flip side of it, it felt like the Braves were, I don't know, tucking tail and kind of like not owning the fact that it was like, yeah, we are those dudes. It was like you were the best team in the regular season, and now you're tucking tail in your first series. It was very discouraging. And as you mentioned, it felt like Game 4 was already lost before it was played by those comments.
Yeah, I think this thing gets me fired up more than anything because the way that the Braves reacted to that entire situation was utterly embarrassing. They should be embarrassed because you're talking about, first of all, this is a division rival. First of all, this is Philadelphia. Those guys went in there and got trashed by their fans, were mocked. They lost to them the year before. This is a playoff series. So even if there wasn't a rivalry involved, but this is a rivalry with a team that just knocked you out when you had World Series aspirations the year before. And you sit there and you're walking your comments back, comments that were made in silent, comments that maybe should have never leaked, but you're more worried about these things being leaked from the locker room and the sanctity of the locker room than winning Game 4. I was waiting for any player to step up and say, hey, we are, as Jock would say, those mother effers. We are those dudes. Who cares what Orlando Arcia said? Yes, he said it. We are going to beat this team. I don't care. They were almost scared to get beat up by the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, if this were a street fight, they were begging for mercy from Bryce Harper. Please do not hurt us. And obviously, we know what happened in Game 4. He goes out there and blasts a couple of home runs, wins the series. But Bryce Harper didn't need that motivation. He was going to do that regardless. They looked like scared puppies in that situation. It was one of the things that really pissed me off. That situation was more embarrassing than losing to the Phillies itself. The fact that they were even answering questions seriously about what came out off instead of one, ignoring it, that would have been a better option, or two, saying, screw it.
Yeah, there was two options they really could have gone with. We're not focused on that. We're focused at the task at hand, obviously the playoff series with the Phillies. Or they could have, like you said, just own it. Just be like, yeah, we are those dudes, and we're going to come back and win this series. It's very simple. They chose the latter. They chose to kind of scrutinize the media and say, there's no place for that in baseball.
Yeah, it was extremely discouraging. And as I said when I wrote about this, that, you could almost feel that the team, like they had been gut punched, and they had Spencer Strider on the mound, their best pitcher, arguably the best pitcher in baseball on the mound, ready to set them up for success and take this Game 4 in Philadelphia and move it to a Game 5. They almost acted like the series was over. I mean, it's one of those things where I really have never felt more embarrassed for a club that was as good as they were, because they were too damn good to be making decisions like that. Coming up after the break, JJ McCarthy, could he be a top 10 draft pick? Some people think so.